Those moments, the really rare events that just make you stop and think, they seem to hint at something bigger, maybe, something just beyond the everyday. I mean, how often do you look up at the sky or see something really unusual down here and just wonder, is that just chance or something more?
Well, that's pretty much where we're headed today.
Yeah, our mission really is to look at two very unusual things people are talking about right now. One's celestial, one's very much terrestrial, and then explore how they might connect back to, really ancient ways of thinking about divine signs. So we'll be unpacking the science around this interstellar comet and also the recent readiness of an unblemished red heifer in Israel, which is historically, well, quite significant. And to do that, we're pulling from quite a mix of sources. We've got scientific reports, obviously, but also core biblical texts, ancient rabbinic traditions, and even some extra biblical stuff like, the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Josephus. These texts, the extra biblical ones, they really offer a wider view, don't they, into how people thought about prophecy and signs outside the main scriptures.
Absolutely. It gives you a sense of the broader prophetic mindset back then.
So yeah, get ready for a deep dive across, well, millennia and different viewpoints.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is how these events, which seem so different on the surface, have often been interpreted through, a surprisingly similar lens when they happen together or close together. We're not just asking what happened, but, how people understood it across different times, different cultures. It tells us a lot about that ongoing human search for meaning, doesn't it?
It really does. That search for meaning and that feeling of something truly other. You can almost sense it even in the scientific language about our first topic. So, okay, let's start there. With the visitor from beyond, Comet 3IA LAS. From a purely scientific angle, what makes it stand out?
Well, it's genuinely rare. Discovered back on February 22, 2020. And right away, the big thing was its origin, interstellar. It didn't come from our solar system. It's a true cosmic traveler,
Yeah.
coming from that vast emptiness between the stars.
The cosmic traveler.
Yeah.
That phrase alone just sounds mysterious, doesn't it? Does the fact that it's just passing through, does that play into how it might be seen as a sign? And what about its size? How fast was it moving?
Oh, definitely. Its transient nature is absolutely key. Initial guesses put it as potentially quite big, maybe up to 10 kilometers across, though that got refined later. Speed-wise, well, interstellar objects move incredibly fast. They're not tied to our sun's gravity in the same way. Its speed, its path, it all showed it would swing close to the sun and then just keep going. Right back out into interstellar space, never coming back.
Never coming back. Wow, so a one-off event, a brief, maybe spectacular appearance from deep space, like a messenger that arrives, delivers something, and then vanishes. That never-to-return part feels...
Well, it resonates with how ancient people often saw rare events like this, doesn't it? As unique signals, maybe even planned ones. Scientifically, it's just a really unique observation.
Exactly. Its trajectory, it's what we call hyperbolic. That's the signature of something coming from outside our solar system. Totally different from our regular comets that are stuck orbiting the sun. It makes it incredibly rare. Just fundamentally different.
Okay, so from that really unique visitor up there, let's shift focus down to Earth. Something equally significant, perhaps, but in a very different way. Something tied deeply to ancient prophecy. The unblemished red heifer. Its recent readiness? Well, for many people, that carries huge historical religious weight. Can you walk us through the significance there? What's the background? Right. This taps into something really central in biblical tradition. Specifically, you look at Numbers chapter 19. It lays out this very specific purification ritual. It requires a red heifer, but one that's without blemish, absolutely perfect, no defects, and crucially, one on which a yoke has never come. It's never been used for work. The ashes from this specific animal, mixed with water, were the only way to purify people who'd become ritually impure, specifically through contact with a dead body.
So incredibly specific rules, not just any red cow. It has to be perfect in these very rare ways. What does that rarity itself suggest about its importance when one does show up? And why is the fact that some are ready now in Israel seen as such a big deal?
Well, historically, if you look at rabbinic tradition, the claim is that only 9 such heifers were ever actually prepared and used, all the way from Moses' time up until the Second Temple was destroyed. And the 10th one, well, according to some interpretations, the 10th one is linked to the coming of the Messiah. So the fact that these unblemished red heifers have recently been successfully raised in Israel, for some, that's seen as fulfilling a really critical piece of prophecy and messianic expectations. It signals a kind of readiness for what many believe are, end-time events.
Okay, so this is where those two threads, the visitor from the heavens, the preparation on earth, might start to weave together in terms of ancient interpretation. Our sources, they talk about how unusual things in the sky and specific temple-related events were historically seen as signs. What do these ancient texts actually say about that connection?
Yeah, connecting the dots. Many ancient writings, both inside and outside the standard biblical canon, talk about signs, signs in heaven, signs on earth, happening before big historical shifts or prophetic moments. You see it in Luke 21, for instance. It mentions signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, that kind of thing.
Right.
Joel chapter 2 also talks about the sun turning dark, the moon turning to blood, before the great and the terrible day of the Lord. Celestial warnings, essentially.
So a pretty consistent theme. Disturbances up there seen as signals of big changes down here. And the red heifer, how does it fit into that wider picture of signs?
Well, the ritual itself, Hebrews chapter 9, touches on this, describing it as a purification that actually pointed towards something greater, more ultimate cleansing. But historically, just its extreme rarity and those super specific requirements that gave it huge symbolic weight. The appearance alone could be seen as a sign of momentous times approaching. And then you have those other texts we mentioned, Enoch, Jubilees, the Dead Sea Scrolls. They often really emphasize watching for signs, both cosmic and earthly, as clues about the end of an age or divine plans unfolding. Even Josephus, the historian, he wrote about various strange occurrences and signs that people in his time widely believed foretold major events, like the temple's destruction itself.
It really seems like people have always been looking for patterns, haven't they? Trying to find meaning in the things that stand out from the ordinary. So how might these two distinct kinds of signs, the heaven sign and the earth sign, as our sources frame them, how might they converge? What's the synthesis here?
Well, the perspective you get from these sources is that having both happen close together, a super rare celestial event, like an interstellar comet, literally a visitor from beyond, and a very specific prophetically charged event on Earth, like the red heifer being ready. That combination could be seen as a really powerful dual sign. These aren't everyday things, right? And them happening around the same time. For some interpretations, that's deeply meaningful. It could point towards, well, ancient prophecies unfolding, maybe the end of one era and the start of something new. Significant times, basically.
Yeah, that really highlights how consistently throughout history, people have tried to make sense of big changes by looking at unusual things in the world around them, whether it's a comet blazing overhead or, a very particular animal being prepared for an ancient rite.
Precisely. And the sources really stress that these events, whether you focus on the hard science about the comet, its speed, its origin, or the deep historical and religious meaning of the red heifer, both have historically been used as lenses. Context for seeing such things as significant markers, maybe even divine signs.
And, understanding that historical context, those cultural interpretations, it helps us, I think, look at current events with maybe a bit more perspective. Moving beyond just simple speculation, it's about appreciating all the layers of meaning people have attached to things like this across different times and traditions.
It adds depth to how we might consider them now.
So we've covered quite a bit. An interstellar visitor, an ancient ritual animal, ready. It's a lot to take in. Given how people have always, it seems, searched for meaning in extraordinary things, what does it mean for you, listening now, living in this age where we have so much information? How do you critically evaluate what gets called a sign from heaven and earth? How do these ancient ways of seeing things maybe shape our modern view, even subconsciously? And what new questions might digging into this prompt you to ask?
That's the core of it, really. It's an ongoing process, isn't it, this journey of discovery? And there's always value in staying curious and keeping that exploration going. You never know what connections you might find.